Hello everyone and welcome back. So today we have a very interesting session is coming up, and that is known as called working with React and Redux. Friend, this is one of the most important topic for those who are working on a React and they are thinking about how the Redux can be so important for all of them. So let's get started and talk about Redux more. So first of all, there is a conversation is going on which say like, hey, I'm creating a React application for the shopping cart feature. So the person is saying that that's great. So, but say like typically if I'm developing a shopping cart based application, so it is difficult to realize like how I will be taking care about the state management of my application, because state management for any application, whether it is a mobile based, whether it's a desktop based, it is very essential, which centralizes store the state of your application, and from there it distributes to all. They say, why don't you use a tool named called Redux, which is one of the most popular tool available in market? Okay, so now the conversation starts like, and can you tell me like what exactly the Redux is and how I can get a benefit out of this? So let's get started about this conversation. So what is the Redux, why we use it, the principles, the advantages and disadvantages, and some short demos. Well, here, why Redux? See, the important aspect of the Redux is basically it says the state is an object. Any application will certainly have a state, and that state needs to be stored, okay, which contains a lot of properties related to many different aspects of your code, okay, that needs to change over the period of time. Like you upload any picture in your Facebook, the number of likes change frequently. So the state can be modified based on whether the user actions or the network changes. So every time when the state objects changes, React application automatically re-renders the new component states back to the client. So a state objects can have a multiple properties, like you can see about if you upload any new status in your, I would say, Facebook. So you can say like it contains comments, it contains the number of likes, it contains multiple aspects, okay, tags. So these are multiple properties of any application. Okay, so in a larger you can say the large scale application, you can have a several components with so many number of objects, and every time these application keep switching, keep changing the state. So you need to have the centralized management of holding all the states. Okay, so from your desktop or from mobile, you go to the web and access your resources and frequently. They say this is because the state of the application while switching was stored and then re-rendered when switched it back. Okay, so the state object needs to be managed, and the Redux is just the same, which takes care about what the state management. So Redux is nothing but one of the very popular JavaScript framework which helps to maintain the state without writing maximum efforts of the coding. So it is a state management tool, and it can work or accommodate it not only with React, with any sort of applications. Okay, so the Redux is taking care about the states, and whichever component needs that state, it will be immediately available to them. So let's to understand what are the pillars of Redux. So the principle of Redux, number one, single source of truth. That means there will be only one store, and which will maintain the complete object tree, where the complete state will be stored without any hurdle. Okay, so it is easy to debug and it is faster development. And single state tree also make it easier to debug or inspect of your application, and the development time is anytime faster. Now the next thing is we're talking about the state is read only. That means you can't change it, but rather you're gonna get the new state every time when the new changes comes into your application. Okay, so there's no state changes, and actions are nothing but a call a plain objects. Okay, now here the next application is all about changes are made with pure functions. A pure function means a function is so called pure, which doesn't make any REST API call. Are we clear? It is just responsible to take your inputs and return you the new output. So it is easy to manage, okay, because it is you're talking about mutating the previous states, and because reducers are just a functions which are also called pure function, it is very easy for us to maintain such kind of applications. So there are the quick three pillars of a Redux application. Okay, store, actions, reducers. So store, when we talk about, so they are the one which takes care about the complete tree of the state management. Okay, so that's where exactly the complete changes and the chain will be maintained. So get state is a function which is responsible to return the current state of your store. Dispatch is the one which is responsible to dispatch an action, like any action like in clicking on the button or requesting some new things from our application. Subscribe, that means you are subscribing for any change to your application, and unsubscribe means you want to be get updated about any changes which are happening behind the scene. Actions, like you can see, these are just a plain object. They are the mediator between the reducers as well as what your backend application. So they are just like in plain actions which are given to your client. The client as a React will be calling these functions, and they will be in turn hold the data and pass on further to the reducers now. So they are the payloads of the information and send the data of your application to your store. Any data you talk about, UI, network calls, or whatever it is. Okay. Now the reducers are something which needs to act on every time when the state application changes of your code. Okay. And it is the one which accepts the current state and returns the new state based on what actions you have performed. And the combined reducers are the one which are combining multiple reducers together and act as a common registry where multiple reducers are joined together. Okay, now let's talk about some pros and cons of Redux. So pros of using Redux, that means advantages we are talking about. So this is always one source of truth. So there'll be no confusion. State is completely in sync, and there's a single resource where the states are getting maintained. It is a very much predictable outcome. You know it very well what to give and what to receive. So it is more stated. So the code is more consistent and easy to manage and very simple, optimized and user-friendly mechanism, and track every single change in a real time. Okay, these are the pros. Cons, which we talk about, no encapsulation. So it can lead to some security issues. Boilerplate, it happens sometimes when you need to write this code repeatedly throughout your application. Memory usage, so it does uses the memory. Okay, when the changes are updates are happening, so it is returning the new state every time. So it sometimes uses the excessive memory, which leads to some more bloater of the code. So we are now clear about how the Redux works, and now it's time to talk about a demo. Okay everyone, so it's time to basically talk about how you will be installing a React applications into your current environment. Look friends, if you are interested on creating a new React applications, okay, so we have a very simple steps to follow. Number one, if you want to create a new React applications, you can quickly create by opening up the Node.js terminal, and there you can install this dependency by saying npm space I space create hyphen react hyphen app space hyphen g. So friends, what this command does, so you have to go inside your command prompt and type this command npm space I space create hyphen react hyphen app space hyphen g. This command will download the necessary tool called create react app, okay, from the web environment and get it installed into your global location. That is very essential if you want to start working with the create react app project. And once this is ready, the next step what you have to follow is to create another project by saying npm create hyphen react hyphen app, okay, and after that you have to use the tool name called my app. So this my app will be the name of the project which you need to create. So create react app is a tool which you have recently downloaded in your current environment using -g, and after that you have to use this create react app and create a new project with a name called my app. So this will create a boilerplate project of the React application, And once you say create React app, my app, so the next step what you have to do is you have to use the cd command, okay, by saying my app. So you have to go inside this new project and you have to use npm space start. So npm space start will be the another command which will help you to create or to start or launch your React application. Okay, so the step number one is this, and the second step you have to create like this. Okay, so that's the way how your new project is going to be creating it for you. So here in my application, if I start my terminal, so I'm here under my desktop, okay, and I can go back and create a new project here by, because this is, I have to do it very first, which is already done. I've already installed this in my machine. I can go back and create the second command called create hyphen react hyphen app space my app. The moment I hit enter, it is going to create a new project for me, and it will take a while, and it is asking me like you do not have a permission. So let me go back and create a permission to my application. Now it is getting it ready. So initially it will take some time to get your dependencies downloaded and create a fresh folder structure into your desktop. But in case if you are a window user, I would recommend that you use your C drive or D drive wherever you are comfortable, and there you perform all the actions. Here you can see the my app folder is created, and here all the necessary dependencies are getting ready, and it is downloading all the necessary steps for me. Okay, so let's come back once it is ready. Okay everyone, so you can see here I've got this my project ready with me, and once it is ready, it is asking me about a few things. It is telling me like if you want to start working with this project, you have to use cd space my app. As I said earlier, this is the command which you have to use, cd space my app. So I'm saying cd space my app, and I'm saying npm space start. So I'm saying npm space start, so it will launch my application and the server will pick up. So let's see if I have any applications running under the same port. So once again, let me rewrite or rerun it again. So it is launching my application now. Okay, it is having some permission issues, due to that it is coming up. So I can just use the sudo command before, and now it will pick up my application. Now you can see my application is initiated. Great. So guys, this is where exactly you get your React application ready. And yes, in case if you want to develop a Redux based application, so you have to download some additional dependencies too. So you have to say npm space I space Redux space React hyphen Redux. So these two dependencies you really require in case if you want some additional set of Redux facility you want. So I'm just saying sudo, and now it is downloading all the necessary dependencies for my code. There we go. So friends, that is the way how you perform the necessary setup for the React and Redux application. And after that, we will start working with a sample application and React of Redux. Okay, everyone. So since our application is all set, okay, so we are all good, okay, to take our development to the next level. So here we would like to show you how you can develop something very basic React and Redux application which can help you to get a basic setup ready of counter example. Okay, so how to start working with React and Redux? So before I proceed ahead, this is the folder structure for me. Okay, and in this folder structure, I'm going to create another. This is actually the one which I've imported in my VS Code editor. And here I would like to create a new folder here under my SRC saying, or I can say the Redux demo. And under this Redux demo, I can create a new file here called counter.js. And inside this counter.js, I would like to import some dependencies by saying import React from React. And let's go and create a new class by saying export default class counter extends component. Now this is the way how you always create a class, okay, inside your React, which have a one render function which returns a JSX code to you. I have a call return, and here it returns a JSX code to me. I'm just writing a very simple message called div. I'm saying welcome to React app. So this is a very simple counter example which extends component. This counter, I would like to use it in my index.js file, and inside this I say counter. And the moment I say counter added in my index.js, I will say npm space start to get my project ready. Okay, it is saying it is running, so you want to run, hit enter. Let us pick up its own port number, so 3.1001, and I'm getting this message called welcome to React app. Very simple. So I have got this counter example which component I have delivered to my browser, and it's time to develop some kind of counter application. And for this, what I will do is here I want to bring some buttons. So I say button, and I'm saying increment. I have another button called decrement. So we have two buttons with me, increment and decrement. Okay, and these buttons will call some functions which I'm writing it here. I'm saying inc. Okay, and I'm also using dec. That means increment and decrement. And here I just write alert by saying called, just for to confirm whether they are getting called or not. So I'm saying called, and here we'll be attaching those event by saying on click equal to inc, and here we are saying once again equal to. Okay, and we will check if it are working fine. So perfect, it is getting called, it is getting called. Yes, so alert was just an idea to check whether the functions are getting invoked properly or not. Okay, now the first step, in case if you want to perform this type of development, remember one thing, you always starts with creating a reducer. So to create a reducer, what I will be doing it, I'm going to create a new file here called index.js. Okay, so I'm creating a very simple file called index.js, and here I will try to apply, but fortunately I already have an index.js file with me, okay, in my this location. So here itself I can create some initializing the state. So in my application, I'm already having this counter with me. So let me go back and download some dependencies first. So the first thing what I need to import is called counter, which is anyways we have taken it up. Next, I would like to import from React-Redux. Okay, I'm just keeping those dependencies blank, which later on I will tell you what those meanings are. I'm using import from Redux. Some of the dependencies are there. Okay, so the step number one, what you'll be doing, you will be initializing the state. So here in my application, okay, I would like to initialize my state by saying const state, okay, equal to, let me initialize my state. Okay, I will say with a value called count colon 0. Okay, and furthermore we will go ahead step by step. Well, this is what our state was called initial state count colon what, a 0. Okay, so what I would like to do here is I would like to create some functionality here, okay, which is nothing but a called reducer function. Like I told you earlier, it is a kind of pure function which will be helping you to return the state back to your application. Okay, so I'm first of all saying function reducer. Okay, it takes two parameter, state equal to initial state comma action. Okay, and here we are using switch. In this switch we are confirming what type of action client will invoke. So if I say action dot type, okay, now we will check which type of action client may invoke. If my action is type of what, increment, if the action is type of increment, then it returns count colon state dot count plus 1. It will increment the counter by 1. Okay, that's the one thing. And second thing, I will try to copy this if the cases of what type, decrement. So here it will say -1. Okay, otherwise I'll return I will return the default state. I'm saying return state. That's the condition is. Okay, after this what I'll be doing is I have to create a store, because see, the idea is like store, I told you earlier in my PPT, it is the one which contain the single source of truth. Okay, so you need to create it. So after this I'll create const store equal to create store. See, it comes from Redux. Okay, from where you have to create a store. So say create store, and here you pass what, reducer. Okay, so this reducer is nothing but the one which you have recently created on the top. Okay, so your store will collect the state by having the multiple reducers utilized here. And now once it is ready, so I'll be using one tool name called provider. Guys, provider is basically called as a bridge which is responsible to collect the state, okay, from the different store, and from there it make it available to the consumer, which is so-called components. So provider works as a bridge from collecting the state from multiple locations, so fall from store, and make it available to the components. So provider is the tool comes from the React-Redux. Okay, so what we need to do here in my application, I would like to use provider. So you can see it is a provider. Inside this provider I will wrap my counter, and this provider will take the store from where, from the store. Store is what? The one which is creating the store. And through this store, it is making this state available to whom? To my counter. Okay, so the counter will get what? The initialized state with a default value called what? A 0. And that we can make it available to my application. So I hope you are clear about how the state is going to be utilized by the components. So in my counter.js, if I want to get my state visible to my application, here I have to basically go and create one more function here. Okay, that is called function map to props. And this map state to props function will be holding state as a parameter. And here it says return. And here I'm saying count is a local variable. I'm declaring it colon state dot count. So count is the variable which you remember we have made it available, okay, with my initializing the state. And this count variable will be available to where? To my application. And this map state to props, since it is written outside of this component, I have to create one more function called default connect. So this is the connect function which is responsible to connect this map state to props function, which is getting the state from the reducer to your current component. So in this connect, I will pass the first parameter called map state to props and the component name, which is responsible to consume your state. Okay. Because it is export default connect, we are already doing it. So we will be removing it from here, because in a single file, one component can have default. Okay, and we can make this counter visible in my current application. Clear? So this counter you can display, okay, by using this .props.count. So here in your render, wherever you are using this now, okay, you can display the counter here. So you can see count colon this dot props dot count. So that's how your application is basically designed. Okay, so it's having some issues which will be fixing it. Okay, but here that's the first thing which your counter example is being taken it up. Okay everybody, so you see like here my code is almost ready, everything is there. Let me check by my browser, and you can see here it is working perfectly fine. Okay, and here in your application you see we have got count and the initial value called 0, the one which you have initialized from index.js, it is visible to me. That's perfect. Okay, now we would like to invoke an actions, and these actions will be further incrementing or decrementing. That means these actions will be calling those reducer functions, and these reducer functions will be calling through what? Through this our counter. So we have a counter here, and these counters I'll be calling it in to check how they're getting called internally. So index.js is the one which will be helping us to invoke all those one by one. So let's see how we can call those from my counter. So in step number 1, in case if I want to call those in my increment, okay, so I just use this arrow sign, and here in my inc I just use this option like in this dot props dot dispatch. This is the predefined function dispatch in which we have to tell which type of action we are trying to invoke. So we are saying type colon what, and this is the name which should match with this action, the one which you created, increment. Okay, so your action will get called and the value will get increment. Let's check. Awesome, you can see now it is invoking this action, and this action is basically internally helping me to invoke the number of count. And the same thing I will try to perform for my decrement also. Let me call this here and make it as an arrow function and say decrement. And let's see. Perfect. So it is working fine. So friends, that is a complete example of like how in your React you'll be responsible for invoking these dispatchers, which are nothing but a typical way of invoking your reducers behind the scene, and these reducers will be performing your necessary actions after accepting the data from the input. So now you can see we have a call increment and decrement. It is a pure function. It is taking your actions and returning you what the new state of your applications. So that's where your simple example is. So this particular example we have created for you to offer you something very comprehensive in a React.js. React.js, what happens like we know it our previous demonstrations, we have used a lot about Redux for the state management tool. We have told you like Redux is a very well-known state management tool, and Redux comes with host of new features like you talk about action, you talk about reducer, you talk about provider. So multiple things are there. Now the important thing is when being a client of any React based application, if I have to use React Redux features, so we have to use a connect. So in our previous demonstrations you have seen we were using map state to props for retrieving the state from the Redux, and we were using map dispatch to props for dispatching an action. And these two functions, map state to props and map dispatch to props, okay, we have to associate with connect function, which is a part of React-Redux. Many of you initially might have felt this looks quite complicated. Yeah, so React has offered you the very simplest way to communicate with your backend state management tool, which is so-called Redux, in very simplified manner. Now in the latest version, you neither require any connect function on the client, nor you require map state to props or map dispatch to props. Rather, you have got some new functions are available, which I'm going to show to you right now here. So here in my SRC, if I see there's a one container folder, under this we have a called product listing. This is a very simple example of like how you can load the list of products from the backend APIs. So we are using once again Axios to load the list of dummy products from my backend. But the intention is like how we can maintain the state. So here we have used two very interesting features. One is called use dispatch and second is called use selector, and they come from React-Redux. What is the benefit of this? The benefit of using use dispatch and use selector is they are the absolutely alternative to map state to props, and this is an alternative to map dispatch to props, and you do not need any more connect function. So use selector is designed to get the state from your backend. Okay, so if you can see here, this example, we are having one property called dispatch where we are associating this use dispatch. Okay, and to dispatch the data what we have retrieved from my backend, which we are anyways using the Axios, and from this Axios, after making the call, whatever the data I'm getting it, I'll be setting this data to my backend. So I'm dispatching this. So if you see, dispatch is a property which is associated with this use dispatch, and using this dispatch, okay, you are directly calling the action. Set products is nothing but a call your action, okay, and under this you're passing response.data. So if I open up here in my action, okay, so you can see we have a call set products. Okay, so here I'm calling set products, and under this we are sending the data which you are retrieving it from our backend. So it's a very simple way. Okay, so this dispatch is directly calling this your action function and passing the data what I've retrieved from the client. So that is for dispatching. For retrieving the current state, what you're doing, you will be using this statement like use selector. Okay, so the use selector is the another feature, okay, through which you will be retrieving the state. So now you can see I'm saying use selector and I'm getting the state, and I'm saying state.allProducts.products. So what is the all product? Is nothing but my combined user property. So if I see my combined user, so using this state, which is just a keyword, I'm calling this all products, which is my combined user property. So if I see my reducers index.js, you can see there's one property called all products in my combined users. So this all product, I'm basically calling this and accessing its property called products. So now you just understand this use selector is completely replacing the necessity of your map state to props, and this next function called dispatch, which is called use dispatch, is completely replacing the necessity of map dispatch to props, and you do not need connect function. So these are the new features which helps the developer to make their development little more easier. Okay, so I'm sure you got the clarity of how this is really used. Okay everyone, so we have recently seen how this use selector and use dispatch is replacing the traditional technique. Now there's another very interesting feature which is available. We all know that Redux is designed for state management, and it is a pure client-side management, state management tool. But the big question still is the same. Where the state is getting stored in tomorrow, if I want to know. I want to see those states in my application. If I want to know where the state was saved, what was my previous states, which actions I've called. So to debug this complete situation, Redux is offering you very comprehensive tool that is called Redux DevTools. Redux DevTools is a very important aspect for the Redux developers. Here if I see my package.json, okay, so initially you do not need any specific tool for state management, so-called your Redux DevTools. It comes by default. But how to configure this? So to configure this Redux DevTools, here in your store.js, you have to define this statement called window.redux-devtool extension underscore and windows.redux-devtool extension. This line you have to write it for sure in order to identify the previous state and what actions you have called. This is very important. Without this, your Redux state management which is happening, you can't debug it. So you're allowing by telling, okay, I want my current applications to have the DevTools available. Okay, so once this is ready with me, how will I use this? So to use this, what we need to do is, because the dev tool is absolutely a browser based tool, so if I just open up here, okay, and if I say Redux dev tools, so you will see the first option you will get, Redux dev tools. It is a tool offered by the Redux dev tools, and you have to install it. Since in my browser it is already installed, but in your, you have to install it first. Okay, so once you install, what you need to do is here, let me try to launch this first. Let my application start, and the moment it starts, it will load some default data from the backend. You can see now some backend data, some dummy data is now loaded, and here you see there's an option called Redux DevTools. It enabled because it is installed, and here I have this option in a panel. Okay, you can see this is the how the Redux DevTools really looks like. In it is the, I would say, a kind of plugin which will hold all the records. Now you can see it is by default calling the set products, which is an action for me, and if I select any product, you can see now there's another action get called, and these are all what the properties of this particular action. If I click on back, it will call remove selected products, and once again if I select any of this product, once again it is loading the other products. I go back and load another one. So many products are there which I can use it now. Now I can see, so these are all multiple actions it is internally invoking to tell which are the actions are there. And what is happening is, if you see, if I select this drop down, if I say chart, you'll be quite surprised to see how beautifully this example is offering you the charting. You see this now. This is the products are there. This is the state is being maintained behind the scene. Okay, and it logs the complete state. So if I press the play button, you will get to know what happened. See now, earlier it loaded all the products. Now it is once again loading, unloading. Now you can see the complete state is maintained behind the scene, and it's storing the previous state, what it was when the user was selected. And now you understand what this Redux Dev tool is. It is a beautiful tool designed for giving you the better productivity in terms of debugging your application, knowing what is going on. Okay, so make sure two things you need to do. Number one, you have to enable this, and post that you have to have a Redux Dev tool installed. Then only you can have this. Thank you.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.